All right, everybody, welcome back to Horn Takes. I am your host, Sean Redfern. We are back in Texas with a big win over the Michigan Wolverines. Man, we had an absolute blast up in Michigan and Ann Arbor and Detroit area. Really good road trip. We went to Bama last year, got to do this one. Really exciting opportunity to go see the big house. We had just a really good time. So we'll talk about that some today. We'll talk about our experience up in Ann Arbor. We will do our Trace Otra games recap. We did our first Trace Otra games of the season this last week. Again, we'll talk about that big house experience, what it was like on game day, the fans, the food, the drink, everything you could think of, all the stuff you think about when you go to a college football game. We'll talk about all that stuff. And then we'll do Drunk Sean thoughts from the game on Saturday. I have not watched the broadcast a single second of it so far since we got home. We got up at 1:45 Central Time Sunday morning to catch a 5 a.m. flight out of Detroit. Ended up getting back home little after 10, about 10:30 probably here in Texas. So we had a hell of a sort of, well, it was a hell of a long day yesterday, but it was a super early day. So uh, I said, man, I'm not watching. I was thinking about doing a show yesterday, man. I was thinking about doing Drunk Sean thoughts yesterday, but I just couldn't do it. Check us out on Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube at Horn Takes. If you just like to listen to podcasts, you can check us out at Apple Podcast, iHeart, Spotify. You can find us at horntakespodcast.buzzsprout.com. Put up all the episodes there, do all that good stuff every single week. So we're all over the place. We're on TikTok, do videos on TikTok. You can find different stuff on TikTok than you can on Twitter because Twitter doesn't have long enough videos. I'm not paying to put long videos on Twitter. And then obviously we have the YouTube channel where we put up our full episodes. Trace Otra games. So as I said, we haven't done Trace Otra games during week one. And I can't remember. I think I was on business travel. Something came up where I just didn't have a chance to look at the games and pick Trace Otra games. Actually, you know what? I did pick them. I just didn't put them on a show. And I don't know this backstory behind that. Nonetheless, let's talk about our Trace Otra games from last weekend. We had number 15, Tennessee, at number 24, NC State first. We thought Tennessee'd score a lot of points. The offense has always been good at Tennessee since Josh Heupel got there. A lot of people think this Nico cat is going to make it that much better. So we knew they had a good offensive line. We knew they were, skill guys. They got good skill guys. They got an offensive minded coach. We knew they'd score some points. They beat the crap out of Chattanooga the first week of the season. NC State looking like they probably be a little bit better on offense, but man, the defense just looked pretty porous in week one. We said Tennessee's roster's loaded, and even though it's their first road trip, their first road test of the season, and it's against a ranked team, I just didn't feel like NC State had the horses to get it done. I picked Tennessee 41-17. It was actually much worse than that. Tennessee wins that game 51-10. And I don't think it was ever close, man. I didn't get a chance to watch it. Haven't seen any highlights of it, but usually 51-10 is not close for very long, if at all. So we're 1-0, folks, already. One game, one correct pick. The next game we picked was Iowa State at number 25, Iowa. Iowa's a 2.5-point favorite, at least at the time I picked our Trace Otra games. When did I do that? That would have been Friday. So I don't know if the line moved much. Probably not. But we talked about how this was always sort of a really cool early rivalry game. And it's generally pretty close, and it's generally really low scoring. And so I kind of figured it would be generally close and generally low scoring. And I think I got that right. My point total is a little bit off. I had ISU winning this one 17-9. I just thought they would be a little tougher on defense, and I didn't think Iowa would score many points. Turns out they won the game 20-19 on a late field goal. So again, we got it right. We just a little bit off on the way the game went down, but I consider that a win. As I've said multiple times, we do these Trace Otra games, and we try to pick games that are. No, we don't want to do blowout games. So we're trying to pick games where we feel like the match is going to be even, or at least it's two ranked teams, as was the case for Tennessee at NC State. I don't know how long NC State stays ranked. I don't think they're going to end up in the top 25 this season. But as bad as the ACC is, who knows? They may do it. So we're 2 for 2 so far. And then the final game we picked was Colorado at Nebraska. This was a game that I did last year, and I got wrong. Uh, Early on, Colorado came out like gangbusters. So I got a couple of games wrong, and they were the ones that really drug me back, held me down on my Trace Otra games picks. And a lot of you guys are probably going to say something really stupid like, well, that's why you hate Deion and Colorado. Well, first, I don't hate Deion. I don't hate Colorado. I just don't buy the hype. And I haven't bought the hype since the beginning. And I'm still waiting for people to use their brains and see what's going on up there and just say it is what it is. It's just not a good deal going on in Colorado right now. Anyway, we talked about it. Nebraska be looking for payback, obviously. Colorado's got Shadur Sanders. They got Jimmy Horn Jr. They got Travis Hunter, and that is about it. I mean, there's not a lot of highly regarded talent on that Colorado roster besides those three guys. I know they got the big five-star offensive tackle who coincidentally, from what I saw, I only watched a little bit of this game, but it looked like Nebraska's defensive line just absolutely wore their asses out. So I don't think he probably had too great of a game. We talked about the Nebraska offense last year, how it was almost non-existent, but we thought it'd be a little bit better, or maybe quite a bit better this year, honestly. We talked about Matt Rule, how he's a good coach, he's a good program builder. And then finally, we ended it up with, Colorado's going to score some points in this game, we thought. They've got, like I said, the skill players are phenomenal. Like, I don't know if Shadur Sanders, if I feel like he's a first-round pick. He's certainly not the number one overall pick for various reasons. His play probably being the least of those reasons that he would never be a first-round pick, a number one overall pick. So I don't know. I'll be interested to see what happens with that. I just don't see it. There's no way I would draft it. I wouldn't even draft that kid. He is a fucking like prima donna. And we'll talk about that in a second as well. Anyway, we said they get some points, but we thought Nebraska would just be too much. I had Nebraska 47-27. It ends up being 28-10. It was 28-0 at halftime. And I was whipped from the game all day Saturday. I did not stay up and watch this one. So I don't know what happened in the second half, if that was by choice or if that was just sort of, Colorado making some adjustments. I really don't know. All I do know is what Shadur Sanders did, leaving his teammates on the field like that with 2 minutes left in the game. It's just pretty chicken shit. Right? And there will be people that will defend it. I don't know how in the world anybody on the planet could defend that. You're supposed to be the leader of the team. You're supposed to be a guy that at least your dad thinks is the number one overall pick. You're supposed to be a guy that a lot of guys are talking about as being a first rounder in the NFL draft. I don't understand why they just can't act right. I don't understand. There's like almost zero reasons where it is appropriate for the starting quarterback, team captain, I'm assuming he is, to walk off the field 2 minutes before the game is over. I just I don't know. I don't know in what world that's acceptable. And people will ask you, well, why do you think the culture is bad at Colorado? Well, that's why I think the culture is bad at Colorado. What organization on the planet that's a good culture is shit like that happening? And it doesn't even have to be sports. It just doesn't happen. That's the opposite of what happens at places with good culture. Then he throws his offensive line under the bus, throws his defensive line under the bus. I just, man, I do not understand. Maybe those guys aren't bad at heart. That could be true, but they just do not get it. They just do not understand how to be a leader and how to have the conversation without just absolutely shitting on other people. We saw it all summer, shitting on ex players that were there. They're just they don't get it, and I would be highly surprised because this season's not going to go well for them. So we're going to see more of this from Shadur Sanders. We're going to see more of the just look at me, woe is me shit from Shadur Sanders. We'll see it from Deion Sanders as well. I just don't see how any NFL team wants to have that in their locker room. I don't know. I don't think he's that good. So there might be some guys you put up with that kind of crap with. I just don't think he is. We'll see if I'm right, wrong. What I am right about is 3-0 in Trace Otra games so far in 2024. So we're excited about that. Let's talk about this big house experience, folks. So I think Ann Arbor, a pretty cool little city. I think it's a great little college town. Lots of bars, lots of restaurants. There's this one little, I guess they call it, it's kind of like their 6th Street. It's not nearly as big, and it shouldn't be. They don't have nearly as many people in Ann Arbor. It's really your quintessential college town. I mean, the reason that place is there, I feel like, and again, I don't know everything about Ann Arbor, but I feel like the reason it's there is because of that college. So a lot of what that town is based off of University of Michigan. So there's one little area kind of downtown, I guess, where there's lots of restaurants, lots of little bars, little eateries, things like that. That was a really cool area. We spent a lot of Friday. Well, I wouldn't say a lot of Friday. We spent a good amount of Friday down in that area, uh, just drinking and having some food. The beer is great. They have all kinds of different beers from all. You go in like some places you go into a bar and they only have like a few things on tap. Michigan has a lot of stuff on tap, at least in Ann Arbor. So I thought that was cool. I enjoy beer. I enjoy trying different beers. The food just kind of okay. It was almost like the same menu everywhere you went, and it's I don't know, man. I don't want to talk badly about it. It just don't. If you think you're going to Ann Arbor as like a food destination, do not do that because you will not be going to Ann Arbor as a food destination. Ann Arbor and Michigan in general, just a beautiful part of the country. Lots of trees, lots of green, man. It looked really nice out there, and we coupled that with those fall feeling days that we had while we were the first day was pretty hot. I think it got up to like 87 degrees or something that day, but it really cooled off Friday, and obviously Saturday was just absolutely gorgeous. So just a really nice part of the country. The town itself of Ann Arbor, you've got the campus that's kind of smushed in between all these little neighborhoods with these old wood frame houses they all look nice. I did see a house that was painted maize and blue. That was pretty interesting. But I think a lot of the housing right there around the campus is primarily, students, because we saw while we were kind of driving around and just kind of getting our bearings of where things were, saw tons of students walking around. Um, so yeah, man, I think Ann Arbor would be a cool place to like just move to and live without kids necessarily. I don't know. Obviously, wouldn't take my kids to Michigan, but I don't know. It's just a cool, quaint little place with enough stuff for my old ass to go do and feel like there's stuff going on. Um, Met a lot of really cool people. We actually sat down at a bar called what was it called? The Jolly man, what the hell is that place called? Jolly something pub. It's on Main Street down there. We got sat down and there was this whole big group of Irish guys sitting at a table, Irish and Wells. And it took me a minute to figure out that they were, not Americans, at least originally not Americans, or they were speaking with really thick accents, and man, they were funny. They were really cool guys. I went and had a conversation with a few of them, got their predictions for the game, put that up on TikTok. So that's on the TikTok channel. 3 out of 4 got it right, folks, and one of them, I got to go back and look at the video. I feel like one of them damn near nailed it. So anyway, just a lot of cool people. All the adults we met were really really cool. Um, the Michigan campus, really nice. The architecture on a lot of their buildings, to me, that stuff's interesting. I thought it was great. Um, so yeah, cool little place. The fans, the adult fans, really awesome, which is normally the case when you go someplace on the road. Special shout out to Colleen, Kevin, and Matt. They were right behind us. 20-year. I think he said. I think Kevin said 20-year season ticket holders. I think Matt was a buddy of theirs. But they were really cool. We talked to them the whole game. They really really gracious and welcoming folks there for the adults. But those were the ones we talked to the most. I talked to several guys around the tailgates. You know, just standing in line to go to the bathroom, stuff like that. And everybody was glad to have us there and excited to see so many Texas fans. Multiple people told us that they had never seen that many visiting fans in their stadium. And the one sort of add-on comment to that I did get a couple times was maybe Ohio State, which pretty interesting that their biggest rival, that there's tons of bad blood there, right? And Texas fans come up there and bring the same amount of travelers. So I thought that was cool. And at the end of the game, when the place kind of cleared out, there was quite a few Texas fans. I've seen a lot of guesses. If that place holds 111,000, which that's what they say was in that joint on Saturday, then there had to be 20,000, 15 or 20,000 Texas fans there, which is pretty solid. I mean, there's some Division One. I think there's probably some Division One stadiums that barely hold that many people. Period. And Texas brought that many people to Michigan. I mean, we spent some time down in downtown Detroit on Friday morning. That was pretty cool. Saw a lot of Longhorn fans everywhere we went, is the point I'm trying to make. I think, to me, Michigan fans remind me a lot of Texas fans. And everything I'm saying good is the adults. We'll talk about the kids in a minute. They just seem like, classy's not the word. They're just cool. They're just friendly people. They're not looking to talk a bunch of trash. They're not looking to get in any kind of shenanigans. Just good, friendly people that are interested in hearing your story while you're there. Just all that kind of good stuff. So kudos to the Michigan fan base. They are certainly one of the blue bloods, and I would say, in college football, and I would say their fan base is a blue blood fan base as well. Again, much like the Texas fan base. What was interesting is most of the people we talked to, and we got up there Thursday, pretty early Thursday. So we spent a lot of time drinking beer at places and eating, and we would meet Michigan fans. They were almost to a man, really not confident about this game at all. A lot of the conversation ended with, "You guys take it easy on us on Saturday," when they would go on or we would leave. So I felt like that was kind of interesting. They just do not have. And I talked to a bartender at one of the bars. It's man, I really should have wrote this down. Man, it's right off of it's like right near Main Street. It's kind of a dive place that's a sports bar that the bartender we talked to said it turns into a nightclub at night. If you follow CJ Vogel, he talked about it a couple times on Twitter. Anyways, he was like, "Man, we are not like the quarterback situation is rough," and so and I knew the guy didn't look that great, but yeah, he's learning, folks. He's a senior that hasn't played a lot, so he hasn't played football in a long time. But I just thought it was kind of interesting that they kind of called it like they saw it, and a lot of them saw it. Almost every one of them saw it not going well for them. Um, what was cool to me was once the game was pretty much over, a lot of Michigan fans did leave. As you can see here in the picture, that's the student section, and that'll be interesting later on when I talk about the students. But a lot of them did stay too, and they seemed very interested in sort of our post game traditions. Was saying the Eyes of Texas. I saw a lot of them pull out their phones and record that. We did the March Grandioso, which we generally do during the game. It's not something that's held till the end of the game, but I don't recall hearing it at all until the end of the game. A lot of people recorded that. I know you could hear it outside the stadium, so I think a lot of people got to hear a really loud and proud Texas fan base, and a Texas fan base that came in there and just was just happy to be there, as opposed to trying to instigate a bunch of bullshit the whole time. So I thought that was cool. I don't think I've ever stayed at a game in Darrell K. Royal when we got beat to listen to the other team and see what the other team's fan base, kind of see what they do. So I thought that was cool. Again, kudos to them. The adults were awesome. Now the students were just as stupid as you'd expect. Lots of horns downs in the face from students, which is not abnormal at an away game. So I didn't find that too weird. But what was weird, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, they They actually say horns down while they're flashing you horns down. Generally, at least in my experience, and maybe I haven't noticed it. I don't know. Maybe it just dawned on me at this weekend. But generally, people will just kind of flash you with horns down, and they don't say anything. Michigan, it's almost like they practiced. It's almost like they had a pep rally, and they said, "This is how you do horns down." And you have to say horns down because almost every single kid, and we walked in with a bunch of them. I got a video on TikTok where we're walking up the street towards the gate, and it's just a sea of maize, and that's in front of us. It was just like that behind us, and we had been walking with this one group of students for probably 5-10 minutes, and man, they were just giving me. We were like the lone little pack of Longhorns in the middle of all this, and they were scattered about, but it was me, my wife, and then there was another group of people a little bit ahead of us wearing burnt orange. But outside of that, it was pretty mazy and pretty bluey, and it was all students. And yeah, they gave us hell. But the horns down and the audible horns down, I thought was pretty interesting. Let me know if I'm wrong on that. Maybe you've had a different experience. We just kind of ignored them, like we always do. I'm not interested in getting in a pissing match with a 19-year-old kid or a 21-year-old kid. That probably never goes well for anybody. So I just generally kind of ignored them. We did have a couple that were behind us talking shit, and then as they got past us, one of them asked me a question, and I forgot about Quinn Ewers and Arch Manning, and so we just kind of started talking. I generally think most of these kids are probably good kids. They just get liquored up. They don't. They're not adults yet. They don't know how to act right. So all they, man, and plus kids today, I think they just like to talk shit a lot. So anyway, it is what it is. I'm not trying to bag on the Michigan student fan base at all. I'm just saying. I'm just trying to give you guys an idea of what we experienced while we were there. It certainly was not bad. I didn't have anything hurled at me. Nobody insulted me. Nobody insulted my wife. Nothing crazy like that. It was all friendly shit talking. But to me, that stuff is just unnecessary. I just never have been that kind of guy. Uh, I'm more of a wait and see what happens at the game type of guy. And then don't even talk shit then. Just enjoy yourself and uh, you know have a good time, right? Seems like the goal is not necessarily to win the game anymore. It's to like talk trash to everybody before the game even starts. I don't know. I can't quite put into words what irritates me about this, but it does. Nonetheless, they were all gone by this is like the start of the fourth quarter or around the beginning of the fourth quarter. I shot a video of the stadium, and this is one of the still shots. They were all gone just about. So I didn't see any after the game. So they must have all gone back to their homes to drink more and drink their sorrows away, whatever. Um, Tailgating scattered all over, kind of like old DKR before CDC got there. There was just there's no main tailgating ground at Michigan. They're all over the place. We were at Ferry Field where game day was at the Surly Horns tailgate. Shout out to those guys. They put out a really good tailgate again. And there was tons of long. I mean, I think Surly Horns had 4 of the pop-up white tents that get put out there in that area, and that place was just covered. Couldn't walk, uh, couldn't even hardly get to the beer coolers, could not get to the food line. I mean, it was a sea of orange in that area, and I think that's what was really impressive. We talked to a lot of Michigan fans there, and I think that was what was really impressive to them. Um, there are obviously a lot of Michigan fans around there, and one thing that I thought was funny is as soon as I kind of walked up, they were throwing down an Ohio State hoodie, and they made me like wipe my feet on it, and the whole "watch out, you might get shit on your shoes" type of deal. But that was pretty cool. I thought they were going to burn it at first, but they just left it out there for people to wipe their feet on, and a ton of Texas fans obliged because we're going up to Ohio State next year, so that'll be another one we try to get to. Which I've heard that even the adult fans there are terrible. So we'll see how that goes. But the tailgating was good. The fans were good. The crowd atmosphere really good. The big house itself, like I said earlier, they said we set an all-time attendance record at any college football game with 111,000. Me personally, I do not know how that place holds 111,000. it just doesn't look like it would hold that many people. To me, it looked smaller than I had kind of built it up in my head. And again, I'm just saying it looked smaller. I'm not saying it was small, Michigan fans. It just looked smaller than what I had built it up in my head. I know there was a lot of people in there for sure, but man, I don't know, 111,000 in that place. It, I don't know. Certainly a great place to go watch a football game. Again, not trying to take anything away. It just doesn't look as big as I had the big house pictured in my head. Another thing, it does not get as loud as you would think it would in there. I think maybe a quarter of the field is actually above ground level. So when you walk up to Michigan, and I didn't know this, I had no idea, but when you walk up to Michigan Stadium, you just see a very short sort of set of bleachers uh, uh, above the ground. So it's built sort of down into the ground, I guess. Um, the other thing, there's a couple reasons why I just don't think it's that loud in there. One, I think Michigan fans, I said it before, they're a lot like Texas fans. And Texas fans, at a game like this, Texas fans could be pretty rowdy. A lot of games you go to at Darrell K. Royal, like this weekend, they'll be rowdy at first, but then it'll die off, I think, and you just won't hear a lot of noise come from that place. So I think Michigan fans are sort of like that. But also, the stadium really moves away from the field the further up you go, a lot more than other places. It's not right on top of the field. They don't have any upper decks. They have a press box, and then I think a press box on the home side, and then I think there's a similar building on the visitor side that has suites and things like that in it, but they don't hold a lot of sound in. So 111,000 at Michigan Stadium is not anywhere close to like 111,000 at a lot of stadiums. And I don't think that's necessarily their fault. It's just the build of the stadium the way it is. All that noise, I think, just goes up. And so now it was loud in there. I'm not saying it was not loud. Early in the game on Texas's first drive, it was good and loud. Just not as loud as I thought it would be. Honestly, with that many people. The bathroom situation at Michigan Stadium is an absolute nightmare for men. It's super clean, by the way, which I thought that was interesting. Even at the end of the game, it was really clean in there. But there's like only a couple of men's rooms on each mezzanine. So like on the bottom level where you can come in, and I say the bottom tunnel you can come in, the bottom mezzanine, there was literally one men's room on that side of the field. I imagine it was the same way on the other. I could be wrong. Maybe the facilities are a little different on the home side, but there just wasn't a lot of men's room, and so there were crazy ass long lines to get into the restrooms. Beer was easier to get than it was to get to a urinal in Michigan Stadium, and that is not generally the experience I've had. I didn't try any of the concessions. I just was not hungry. We had so much food out at the Surly Horn tailgate. Uh, Overall, man, I think Michigan Stadium. It's always been a place I've wanted to go, and I got an opportunity to go, and I'm so glad that I did. Certainly a great experience, pretty much all the way around. Uh, the negatives I did have are just small negatives. They don't come anywhere close to outweighing all the positive things about that place. So if you get a chance to go to a Michigan game, and I don't care who it is, you should definitely take that opportunity. All right, drunk Sean thoughts. So as I said before, I have not watched the broadcast of this game yet. I've seen very few clips of the game on Twitter. So we'll just ramble through some drunk Sean thoughts, and these are just things I was thinking during the game, thinking on the plane on the way home, thinking about yesterday as I was kind of sitting there. You can see there's a picture at the tailgate. They had Labatt Blue, which I thought was awesome. So when in Rome, we're damn near in Canada. You got to drink some Labatt Blue. And the only reason I did really is because at the time that was the only beer that was in a cooler. You got to imagine that's another thing about how big this tailgate was. By the time they would dump beer in the cooler, like it would get pulled out of the cooler. So whoever was stocking beer was on the struggle bus trying to keep coolers filled with beer and ice. So the normal stuff like Miller Lite, Coors Light, that stuff was gone most every time I walked to the cooler. So I drank a lot of Labatt Blue. So it was good. It wasn't bad. I used to drink it a million years ago when I was a kid. I talked to some Canucks. There was a lot of Canadians there, by the way. That was interesting. I'm assuming that's probably pretty normal. They're not far from Canada, um, but they don't even drink Labatt Blue, is what they told me, which I thought was funny. Um, but here's Drunk Sean thoughts on the game. Man, the Texas offense was absolute nails on third down early, uh, which it had to be because I feel again I haven't rewatched this or watched it, but I feel like there was an exorbitant amount of third downs for Texas, especially early in that game. So, but some of the third downs they picked up pretty crippling. Like just, I mean, I think if you're sitting there as a Texas fan, even though we didn't get points on that first drive, but you see the way the offense was able to move the ball on third down and then flip that around as a Michigan fan, that really set the tone for the game. The guys behind us were like, shit, man, we cannot get them off the field. And those are, as frustrating as the team, the players are, the fans, or excuse me, as frustrating as the fans are, frustrated as the fans are about those things, the team gets frustrated about those things as well. So I thought that was pretty big time and sort of setting the tone early for the Texas offense. We've talked a lot on this show about Sark kind of abandoning the running game a lot last year and even in the season before. This time they didn't really start out running. It took them a long time before they even started trying it. And once they did, I felt like it was pretty effective. I don't know what the totals are for rushing yards in that game, but it seemed like we were able to really control the line of scrimmage pretty well and pick up some pretty nice gains on the ground. Uh, Obviously, the game plan was come in and throw the ball around, and I don't necessarily hate that. I mean, you got a really good third year quarterback, you got a bunch of really good wide receivers, you got a good tight end, you got running backs. You can get the ball in their hands anyway in the passing game. So I don't hate it as much as I used to hate it. The only time it really bothers me now is if we're just clearly running it down somebody's throats, and then all of a sudden we just kind of go away from it and start passing. So anyway, I thought that was interesting as I was watching the game. I leaned over at one point and told my wife, I was like, I guess he's not even going to try to run the ball today because it seemed like the entire first drive was all pass plays. Uh, Thought the O line and D line really held serve in this game, and overall, I thought they were dominant. I mean, the offensive line. I don't think Quinn Ewers got sacked one time. I thought they were able to make room in the run game. They held up in pass protection, and that was an area I was really worried about. We talked about the keys, and we talked about matchups. That offensive line, our offensive line versus their D line, and vice versa. I thought were the two most compelling matchups of this game, and man, Texas really won both of those pretty handily. Our number one key for the game when we did our prediction show, our four keys in a prediction, was making Michigan one-dimensional on offense. I think the defense was able to establish that very early on in this game. Michigan did not have any luck running the football. They really didn't have a lot of luck passing the football. So kudos to those two groups for showing up in a big game and really setting the tone for the entire team. I still love running the ball, so I'm really ready for I'm ready for the Texas run game to have a big night, big day, whatever. Um, Again, it's hard to argue the results why he doesn't try. Maybe he's concerned about the depth at running back, which is a concern. I get that. I'm down with that. And again, I think as long as you get him involved in the passing game, like he does, Caden Blue scored a touchdown on a little swing pass. I mean, I think as long as you're doing those things, I don't necessarily I think it matters that you're not, running the ball the traditional way. You're getting the ball to the weapons, and in that case, you're getting it to them in space already. So those are good things. Quinn Ewers played a really, really good game on the road, man. I think Michigan through a game plan, and I don't know if this is what they normally do. I know they play a lot of zone, but it looked like early on in this game they had this three safety over the top look going, and that's something that Iowa State and a lot of teams in the Big 12 have thrown at Quinn Ewers, and it's really given him fits over the past couple of seasons. Even last year, with a season where he improved so much, he still struggled against those defenses that played that three safety look. TCU does it, Iowa State does it. Uh, he did amazing at beating that look. And I think a lot of it is he just trusts his pass protection and he knows he's got time. He's going to find open Longhorns and deliver the ball. So I thought that was a very big uh, bright spot early on for Quinn was that he didn't you could tell he has made a marked improvement knowing what he should be doing with the football against that type of defense. I thought the back end of the defense, that's been a concern. We talked about before the season, the defensive line and the back end of the defense were big concerns. They have looked really, really fast, and they have looked really, really where they're supposed to be through 2 weeks. I mean, they had 2 picks and a recovered fumble against Michigan. Uh, and there was not a lot of open guys for Michigan. Even the completions, there were guys right there to make tackles. We didn't see a lot of catch and run. I think, honestly, I feel like there was only one play where a Michigan guy was just, blatantly open, like absurdly open. We got there and made a tackle. But other than that, I felt like guys were covered up and moving quickly and moving where they needed to be. So that was a huge positive for me as I was watching the game. David Benda, man, has he developed while at Texas? I can't wait to go back and watch the film. But I felt like I said film again. Damn it! Sorry, folks. I'm not going to watch the film. I'm going to watch the broadcast. I need like a little clicker that buzzes me. I can't wait to go back and watch the broadcast and see David Benda because I feel like that dude was like all over the place in the run game. So that'll be interesting to see if I was right on that or if I just happened to build that up in my mind. But I feel like Benda was pretty solid in that game Saturday. I saw Moore and Simmons. I felt like getting some pressure off the edge, especially late. Simmons put like a absolute sick when Colin Simmons is on the field, especially in pass situations. I try to kind of watch him and see what's going on because I'm really really excited about his potential. And man, he put a move on that right tackle for Michigan. And I don't know if this guy is really good or not. I have no idea, but he did not look good on this play, man. Simmons just kind of faked outside a little bit and got him tall and just pushed him right over and ran right around him. Uh, that's a that's one of the things about Simmons coming out of high school was like he was so physically dominant that I don't think he had a lot of technique. I don't think he knew what he was doing. He just ran around and made a lot of plays. And there's a lot of guys like that in high school. If you can get them to learn how to play the position, then they just become absolute studs. And so to see him play a technique type of deal and not just try to use his physical attributes to get around a guy was really cool to watch. Moore ran right over the top of somebody on a pass rush. I think it might have been the same guy. Uh, so good to see those guys get some pressure. And I thought late when they really kind of cut them loose, those the defensive ends were able to affect the passer a lot. So that's positive. I think we still only have one sack on the season. Colin Simmons got his first sack, but I felt like they were able to affect the passer and make him move around some. The run defense overall was great, but I still think sometimes it gets a little leaky. To me, it looks like the technique, or not the technique, but like the scheme Texas runs, it's a lot of gap assignment stuff, which I think most defensive techniques are, or most defensive schemes are. The problem is these offenses spread you out so much now, and PK likes to keep the secondary off the ball and keep everything in front of them, especially the safeties. if somebody misses their assignment, it opens up like a big hole in the field for a running back to go. So when guys miss and guys miss tackles or guys miss where they're supposed to be, it can get pretty leaky. And there were times in that game where it looked a little leaky. I'd like to see that get cleaned up because we're going to have to play some teams with really, really good running games. But again, it's hard to argue with the results. Overall, that game was absolutely a great road win by Texas against the top 10 ranked team. I don't think Michigan finishes anywhere near the top 10. I think they've got a lot of problems. But Texas won by 19 points, and I feel like they left a lot of points out on the field. One thing that was kind of a concern to me was they only were able to score one touchdown in the second half. Almost all of their points came in the first half. And I mean, I know they kind of tried to slow it down and get out of there. I get it. And I'm not like a bloodthirsty, point thirsty person. I just want to. I just want the team to do really well and be real consistent because I think that's how you win, national championships and stuff like that. They did give up a late touchdown on defense. Don't necessarily think that's a big deal. We had Texas 27-13, so we were pretty close with our pick. But I was totally wrong on how I thought the game would go. I picked that 27-13, and I even said, it wouldn't surprise me if Michigan maybe had a small lead at halftime, and I meant slight. And then Texas just sort of wore them down and started pulling away, making some room in the running game, hitting some plays over the top, stuff like that. If you watch the game, that was absolutely not how that game went. But alas, we were pretty close on the final score prediction. Excuse me. I think our friend CJ Vogel almost nailed it. I think his was 34-13. So he got really close as well. He's always copying me. But yeah, man, that's our Drunk Sean thoughts. We will come back tomorrow and we'll see. I'll watch the game tonight and we'll see how close or off I was on a lot of my drunk thoughts. We'll be back with the after action review tomorrow. I'm going to get Kyle Umlang. I think that's how you pronounce his name. I'll find out for sure. But he'll be on the show tomorrow. We'll put the final lid on the jar of this Michigan game. We'll make sure we get some stats and some things to back up our opinions, Drunk Sean's opinions, or we'll correct those Drunk Sean opinions. You can find us on Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube at Horn Takes. Give us a subscribe. Give us a follow. It won't cost you guys a thing. You can email me at horntakespodcast@gmail.com with all your questions, comments, concerns, and criticisms. Again, big win for Texas on the road. You guys get hooked.